Are we recording? Okay. The Complete Poetical Works of Edgar Allan Poe by Edgar Allan Poe. Preface. These trifles are collected and republished chiefly with a view to their redemption from the many improvements to which they have been subjected while going at random the rounds of the press, unquote. I am naturally anxious that what I have written should circulate as I wrote it, if it circulate at all. In defense of my own taste, nevertheless, it is incumbent upon me to say that I think nothing in this volume of much value to the public, or very creditable to myself. Events not to be controlled have prevented me from making at any time any serious effort in what under happier circumstances would have been the field of my choice. With me poetry has been not a purpose, but a passion, and the passion should be held in reverence. They cannot at will be excited, with an eye to the paltry compensations or the more paltry commendations of mankind. 1845, EAP. Let's start over. The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember, it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you." Here I opened wide the door. Darkness there and nothing more. Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there, wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the darkness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon I heard again a tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see, then, what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not an instant stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore, "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven. ghastly, grim, an ancient raven wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on that placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, Other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, Nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, Doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope the melancholy burden bore of nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, Nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if, within the distant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden, whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden, whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door, take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, Nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Published 1845. The bells. Hear the sledges with the bells, silver bells, what a world of merriment their melody foretells. How they tinkle, 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 in their icy air of night, while the stars that oversprinkle all the heavens seem to twinkle with a crystalline delight, keeping time, in a sort of runic rhyme to the tintintabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 from the jingling and the tinkling of the bells. Hear the mellow wedding bells, golden bells, what a world of happiness their harmony foretells. Through the balmy air of night, how they ring out their delight, from the molten golden notes, and all in tune. What a liquid ditty floats to the turtle dove that listens while she gloats on the moon. From the sounding cells, oh, from the sounding cells, what a gush of euphony voluminously wells, how it swells, how it dwells on the future, how it tells of the rapture that impels to the swinging and the ringing of the bells, 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 of the bells, 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 to the rhyming and the chiming of the bells. Hear the loud Ulalume bells, brazen bells, what a tale of terror now their turbulency tells. In the startled ear of night, how they scream out their affright, too much horrified to speak. They can only shriek, shriek out of tune, in a clamorous appealing to the mercy of the fire, in a mad expostulation with the deaf and frantic fire, leaping higher, 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 with a desperate desire and a resolute endeavor, now, to sit or never by the side of the pale-faced moon. Oh, the bells, 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 what a tale their terror tells of despair, how they clang and clash and roar, what a horror they outpour on the bosom of the palpitating air. Yet the ear it fully knows by the twanging and the clanging how the danger ebbs and flows. Yet the ear distinctly tells in the jangling and the wrangling how the danger sinks and swells by the sinking or the swelling in the anger of the bells. Of the bells, 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 in the clamour and the clangour of the bells. Hear the tolling of the bells, iron bells, what a world of solemn thought their monody compels. In the silence of the night, how we shiver with affright at the melancholy menace of their tone. For every sound that floats from the rust within their throats is a groan. And the people, the people, they that dwell up in the steeple all alone, and who toiling, in that muffled monotone, feel a glory in so rolling on the human heart a stone. They are neither man nor woman, they are neither brute nor human, they are ghouls, and their king it is who tolls, and he rolls, 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 rolls. A paean from the bells, and his merry bosom swells with the paean of the bells, and he dances and he yells, keeping time, in a sort of runic rhyme to the paean of the bells. And he dances and he yells, keeping time, in a sort of runic rhyme to the paean of the bells, keeping time, in a sort of runic rhyme to the throbbing of the bells, 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 to the sobbing of the bells, keeping time, as he knells, in a happy runic rhyme to the rolling of the bells, 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 to the tolling of the bells, 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 to the moaning and the groaning of the bells. 1849. Ulalume. The skies they were ashen and sober, the leaves they were crisped and sere, the leaves they were withering and sere. It was night in the lonesome October of my most immemorial year. It was hard by the dim lake of Auber, in the misty mid-region of Weir. It was down by the dank tarn of Auber, in the ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir. Here once, through an alley titanic, of cypress I roamed with my soul, of cypress with Psyche my soul. These were days when my heart was volcanic, as the scoriac rivers that roll their sulphurous currents down Yannick, in the ultimate climes of the pole, that groan as they roll down Mount Yannick, in the realms of the boreal pole. Our talk had been serious and sober, but our thoughts they were palsied and sere. Our memories were treacherous and sere, for we knew not the month was October, and we marked not the night of the year. Ah, night of all nights in the year! We noted not the dim lake of Auber, though once we had journeyed down here, remembered not the dank tarn of Auber, nor the ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir. And now, as the night was senescent, and star-dials pointed to morn, as the sun-dials hinted of morn, at the end of our path a liquescent and nebulous lustre was born, out of which a miraculous crescent arose with a duplicate horn, Astarte's bediamonded crescent, distinct with its duplicate. And I said, she is warmer than Dian. She rolls through an ether of sighs. She revels in a region of sighs. She has seen that the tears are not dry on these cheeks where the worm never dies, and has come past the stars of a lion to point us the path to the skies, to the Lethean peace of the skies. Come up, in despite of the lion, to shine on us with her bright eyes. Come up through the lair of the lion, with love in her luminous eyes. But Psyche, uplifting her finger, said sadly, this star I mistrust, her pallor I strangely mistrust. O hasten, O let us not linger, O fly, let us fly, for we must. In terror she spoke, letting sink her wings till they trailed in the dust. In agony sobbed, letting sink her plumes till they trailed in the dust, till they sorrowfully trailed in the dust. I replied, this is nothing but dreaming. Let us on by this tremulous light. Let us bathe in this crystalline light. Its Sibylic splendor is beaming with hope and in beauty tonight. See, it flickers up the sky through the night. Ah, we safely may trust to its gleaming, and be sure it will lead us aright. We safely may trust to a gleaming that cannot but guide us aright, since it flickers up to heaven through the night. Thus I pacified Psyche, and kissed her, and tempted her out of her gloom, and conquered her scruples and gloom. And we passed to the end of a vista, but were stopped by the door of a tomb, by the door of a legended tomb. And I said, what is written, sweet sister, on the door of this legended tomb? She replied, Ulalume, Ulalume. 'Tis the vault of thy lost Ulalume. And my heart it grew ashen and sober, as the leaves that were crisped and sere, as the leaves that were withering and sere. And I cried, it was surely October, on this very night of last year, that I journeyed down here, that I brought a dread burden down here, on this night of all nights in the year. Ah, what demon has tempted me here? Well, I know now this dim lake of Auber, this misty mid-region of Weir. Well, I know now this dank town of Auber, this ghoul-haunted woodland of Weir. 1847. To Helen. I saw thee once only years ago. I must not say how many, but not many. It was a July midnight, and from out a full-orbed moon that, like thine own soul soaring, sought a precipitate pathway up through heaven, there fell a silvery silken veil of light with quietude and sultriness and slumber upon the upturned faces of 1,000 roses that grew in an enchanted garden, where no wind dared to stir unless on tiptoe fell on the upturned faces of these roses that gave out in return for the love-light their odorous souls in an ecstatic death, fell on the upturned faces of these roses that smiled and died in this parterre enchanted by thee and by the poetry of thy presence. Clad all in white upon a violet bank, I saw thee half reclining, while the moon fell on the upturned faces of the roses, and on thine own upturned, alas, in sorrow. Was it not fate that on this July midnight, was it not fate, whose name is also sorrow, that bade me pause before that garden gate to breathe the incense of those slumbering roses? No footsteps stirred, the hated world all slept, save only thee and me. O heaven, O God, how my heart beats in coupling those two words! Save only thee and me, I paused, I looked, and in an instant all things disappeared. Ah, bear in mind this garden was enchanted. The pearly lustre of the moon went out, the mossy banks and the meandering paths, the happy flowers and the repining trees, were seen no more. The very roses' odours died in the arms of the adoring airs. All expired, save thee, save less than thou, save only the divine light in thine eyes, save but the soul in thine uplifted eyes. I saw but them, they were the world to me. I saw but them, saw only them for hours, saw only them until the moon went down. What wild, hot histories seemed to lie unwritten upon those crystalline celestial spheres! How dark a woe, yet how sublime a hope! How silently serene a sea of pride! How daring an ambition, yet how deep, how fathomless a capacity for love! But now at length dear Diane sank from sight into a western couch of thunder-cloud, and thou, a ghost, amid the entombing trees didst glide away. Only thine eyes remained, they would not go, they never yet have gone, lighting my lonely pathway home that night. They have not left me, as my hopes have, since they follow me, they lead me through the years. They are my ministers, yet I their slave. Their office is to illumine and enkindle, my duty to be saved by their bright light and purified in their electric fire, and sanctified in their Elysian fire. They fill my soul with beauty, which is hope, and are far up in heaven, the stars I kneel to in the sad silent watches of my night, while even in the meridian glare of day I see them still, two sweetly scintillant Venuses, unextinguished by the sun. 1846. Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago, in a kingdom by the sea, that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child, and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea a wind blew out of a cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me, to shut her up in a sepulchre in this kingdom by the sea. The angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than the love of those who were older than we, of many far wiser than we. And neither the angels in heaven above, nor the demons down under the sea, can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. For the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I see the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so all the night tide I lie down by the side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. A Valentine. For her this rhyme is penned, whose luminous eyes, brightly expressive as the twins of Leda, shall find her own sweet name, that nestling lies upon the page, enwrapped from every reader. Search narrowly the lines, they hold a treasure divine, a talisman, an amulet. They must be worn at heart. Search well the measure, the words, the syllables. Do not forget the trivialest point, or you may lose your labor. And yet there is in this no Gordian knot, which one might not undo without a saber, if one could merely comprehend the plot. And written upon the leaf, where now are peering eyes, scintillating soul, there lie, perdus, 3 eloquent words, oft uttered in the hearing of poets by poets. As the name is a poet's too, its letters, although naturally lying like the knight Pinto or Mendez Ferdinando, still form a synonym for truth. Cease trying, you will not read the riddle, though you do the best you can do. 1846. Parenthetical note. To discover the names in this and the following poem, read the first letter of the first line in connection with the second letter of the second line, the third letter of the third line, the fourth of the fourth, and so on to the end. An enigma. Seldom we find, says Solomon Don Dunce, half an idea in the profoundest sonnet. Through all the flimsy things we see at once, as easily as through a Naples bonnet. Trash of all trash, how can a lady don it? Yet heavier far than your Petrarchan stuff, owl downy nonsense that the faintest puff twirls into trunk paper, the while you con it. And, veritably, soul is right enough. The general tuckermanities are errant, bubbles, ephemeral, and so transparent. But this is, now, you may depend upon it, stable, opaque, immortal, all by dint of the dear names that lie concealed within it. To my mother. Because I feel that in the heavens above the angels whispering to one another can find, among their burning terms of love, none so devotional as that of mother. Therefore by that dear name I long have called you, you who are more than mother unto me, and fill my heart of hearts where death installed you in setting my Virginia's spirit free. My mother, my own mother, who died early, was but the mother of myself, but you are mother to the one I loved so dearly, and thus are dearer than the mother I knew, by that infinity with which my wife was dearer to my soul than its soul life. 1849. Parenthetical note. The above was addressed to the poet's mother-in-law, Mrs. Clem. For Annie. Thank heaven, the crisis, the danger is past, and the lingering illness is over at last, and the fever called living is conquered at last. Sadly I know I am shorn of my strength, and no muscle I move as I lie at full length, but no matter, I feel I am better at length, and I rest so composedly now in my bed, that any beholder might fancy me dead, might start at beholding me. The moaning and groaning, the sighing and sobbing, are quieted now with that horrible throbbing at heart. Ah, that horrible, horrible throbbing! The sickness, the nausea, the pitiless pain have ceased with the fever that maddened my brain, with the fever called living that burned in my brain. And oh, of all tortures that torture the worst, has abated the terrible torture of thirst. For the naphthaline river of passion accursed, I have drank of a water that quenches all thirst, of a water that flows with a lullaby sound, from a spring but a very few feet underground, from a cavern not very far down underground. And ah, let it never be foolishly said that my room it is gloomy, and narrow my bed, for man never slept in a different bed, and to sleep you must slumber in just such a bed. My tantalized spirit here blandly reposes, forgetting or never regretting its roses, its old agitations of myrtles and roses. For now, while so quietly lying, it fancies a holier odour about it, of pansies, a rosemary odour, commingled with pansies, with rue and the beautiful Puritan pansies. And so it lies happily, bathing in many a dream of the truth and the beauty of Annie, drowned in a bath of the tresses of Annie. She tenderly kissed me, she fondly caressed, and then I fell gently to sleep on her breast, deeply to sleep from the heaven of her breast. When the light was extinguished, she covered me warm, and she prayed to the angels to keep me from harm, to the Queen of the angels to shield me from harm. And I lie so composedly now in my bed, knowing her love, that you fancy me dead. And I rest so contentedly now in my bed, with her love at my breast, that you fancy me dead, that you shudder to look at me, thinking me dead. But my heart it is brighter than all of the many stars in the sky, for it sparkles with Annie, it glows with the light of the love of my Annie, with the thought of the light of the eyes of my Annie. 1849. To F. Beloved, amid the earnest woes that crowd around my earthly path, drear path, alas, where grows not even one lonely rose, my soul at least a solace hath in dreams of thee, and therein knows an Eden of bright repose. And thus thy memory is to me like some enchanted far-off isle in some tumultuous sea, some ocean throbbing far and free with storm, but where meanwhile serenest skies continually just o'er that one bright inland smile. 1845. To Francis S. Osgood. Thou wouldst be loved, then let thy heart from its present pathway part not. Being everything which now thou art, be nothing which thou art not. So with the world thy gentle ways, thy grace, thy more than beauty, shall be an endless theme of praise, and love a simple duty. 1845. Eldorado. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight in sunshine and in shadow had journeyed long, singing a song in search of Eldorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot of ground that looked like Eldorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of Eldorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow. Ride boldly, ride, the shade replied, if you seek for Eldorado. 1849. Ulalume. I dwelt alone in a world of moan, and my soul was a stagnant tide, till the fair and gentle Ulalume became my blushing bride. Till the yellow-haired young Ulalume became my smiling bride. Ah, less bright the stars of the night than the eyes of a radiant girl, and never a flake that the vapor can make with the moon tints of purple and pearl can vie with the modest Ulalume's most unregarded curl, can compare with the bright-eyed Ulalume's most humble and careless curl. Now doubt, now pain, come never again, for her soul gives me sigh for sigh, and all day long shines bright and strong, Astarte within the sky. While ever to her dear Ulalume upturns her matron eye, while ever to her young Ulalume upturns her violet eye. 1845. A dream within a dream. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow. You are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream, yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream with. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of the golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep while I weep. While I weep, O God, can I not grasp them with a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? 1849. Louise, Shew. Of all who hail thy presence as the morning, of all to whom thine absence is the night, the blotting utterly from out high heaven, the sacred sun of all who weeping bless thee, hourly for hope, for life, above all for the resurrection of deep-buried faith, in truth, in virtue, in humanity, of all who, on despair's unhallowed bed lying down to die, have suddenly arisen at thy murmured words, "Let there be light!" At thy soft murmured words that were fulfilled in thy seraphic glancing of thine eyes, of all who owe thee most, whose gratitude nearest resembles worship. Oh, remember the truest, the most fervently devoted, and think that these weak lines are written by him who, as he pens them, thrills to think his spirit is communing with an angel's. 1847. 2. To Louise, Shew. Not long ago the writer of these lines, in the mad pride of intellectuality, maintained the power of words, unquote, denied that ever a thought arose within the human brain beyond the utterance of the human tongue. And now, as if in mockery of that boast, 2 words, 2 foreign soft dissyllables, Italian tones made only to be murmured by that hangs like chains of pearl on Hermon's hill, by angels dreaming in the moonlit dew that hangs like chains of pearl on Hermon Hill, unquote, have stirred from out the abysses of his heart unthought-like thoughts that are the souls of thought, richer, far wilder, far diviner visions than even the seraph harper Israfel, who has, quote, the sweetest voice of all God's creatures, unquote, could hope to utter. And I, my spells are broken, the pen falls powerless from my shivering hand. With thy dear name as text, though hidden by thee, I cannot write. I cannot speak or think, alas, I cannot feel, for 'tis not feeling, this standing motionless upon the golden threshold of the wide-open gate of dreams, gazing entranced down the gorgeous vista, and thrilling as I see upon the right, upon the left, and all the way along, amid empurpled vapors far away, to where the prospect terminates, thee only. The City and the Sea. Lo, Death has reared himself a throne in a strange city lying alone, far down within the dim west, where the good and the bad and the worst and the best have gone to their eternal rest. There shrines and palaces and towers, time-eaten towers, and tremble not, resemble nothing that is ours, around by lifting winds forgot. Resignedly beneath the sky the melancholy waters lie. No rays from the holy heaven come down on the long night time of that town, but light from out the lurid sea streams up the torrents silently, gleams up the pinnacles far and free, up domes, up spires, up kingly halls, up fanes, up Babylon-like walls, up shadowy long-forgotten bowers of sculptured ivy and stone flowers, up many and many a marvelous shrine, whose wreathed friezes intertwine the viol, the violet, and the vine. Resignedly beneath the sky the melancholy waters lie. So blend the turrets and shadows there that all seem pendulous in air, while from a proud tower in the town Death looks gigantically down. There open fanes and gaping graves yawn level with the luminous waves, but not the riches there that lie in each idol's diamond eye. Not the gaily jewelled dead tempt the waters from their bed, for no ripples curl, alas, along that wilderness of glass. No swellings tell that winds may be upon some far-off happier sea. No heavings hint that winds have been on seas less hideously serene. But lo, a stir is in the air, the wave, there is a movement there, as if the towers had thrust aside in slightly sinking the dull tide, as if their tops had feebly given a void within the filmy heaven. The waves have now a redder glow, the hours are breathing faint and low, and when, amid no earthly moans, down, down that town shall settle hence, hell rising from 1,000 thrones shall do it reverence. 1835. The Sleeper. The Sleeper. At midnight in the month of June I stand beneath the mystic moon. An opiate vapor, dewy dim, exhales from out her golden rim, and softly dripping drop by drop upon the quiet mountain top steals drowsily and musically into the universal valley. The rosemary nods upon the grave, the lily lolls upon the wave, wrapping the fog about its breast. The ruin moulders into rest, looking like Lethe. See, the lake a conscious slumber seems to take, and would not for the world awake. All beauty sleeps, and lo, where lies her casement open to the skies, Irene with her destinies. O lady bright, can it be right, this window open to the night? The wanton airs from the tree-top laughingly through the lattice drop, the bodiless airs, a wizard rout, flit through thy chamber in and out, and wave the curtain canopy so fitfully, so fearfully above the closed and fringed lid, neath which thy slumbering soul lies hid, that o'er the floor and down the wall like ghosts the shadows rise and fall. O lady dear, hast thou no fear? Why and what art thou dreaming here? Sure thou art come o'er far-off seas, a wonder to these garden trees. Strange is thy pallor, strange thy dress, strange above all thy length of tress, and this all solemn silentness. The lady sleeps, O may her sleep which is enduring so be deep, heaven have her in its sacred keep. This chamber changed for one more holy, this bed for one more melancholy. I pray to God that she may lie for ever with unopened eye, while the dim-sheeted ghosts go by. My love, she sleeps, oh, may her sleep, as it is lasting, so be deep. Soft may the worms about her creep, for in the forest dim and old, for her may some tall vault unfold, some vault that oft hath flung its black and winged panels fluttering back, triumphant o'er the crested palls of her grand family funerals, some sepulchre remote alone, against whose portal she hath thrown in childhood many an idle stone. Some tomb from out whose sounding door she ne'er shall force an echo more, thrilling to think, poor child of sin, it was the dead who groaned within. 1845. Bridal Ballad. The ring is on my hand, and the wreath is on my brow, satins and jewels grand, and all at my command, and I am happy now. And my lord he loves me well, but when first he breathed his vow, I felt my bosom swell, for the words rang as a knell, and the voice seemed his who fell in the battle down the dell, and who is happy now. But he spoke to reassure me, and he kissed my pallid brow, while a reverie came o'er me, and to the churchyard bore me, and I sighed to him before me, thinking him dead. Delor me, oh, I am happy now. And thus the words were spoken, and thus the plighted vow, and though my faith be broken, and though my heart be broken, behold the golden keys that proves me happy now. Would to God I could awaken, for I dream I know not how, and my soul is sorely shaken, lest an evil step be taken, lest the dead who is forsaken may not be happy now. 1840. Lenore. Ah, broken is the golden bowl, the spirit flown forever. Let the bell toll, a saintly soul floats on the Stygian river. And Guy de Vere, hast thou no tear? Weep now or nevermore. See, on yon drear and rigid bier, low lies thy love Lenore. Come, let the burial rite be read, the funeral song be sung, an anthem for the queenliest dead that ever died so young, a dirge for her the doubly dead, in that she died so young. Wretches, ye loved her for her wealth, and hated her for her pride, and when she fell in feeble health, ye blessed her that she died. How shall the ritual then be read, the requiem how be sung? By you, by yours, the evil eye, by yours, the slanderous tongue, that did to death the innocents that died, and died so young? Peccavimus, but rave not thus, and let a Sabbath song go up to God so solemnly, the dead may feel no wrong. The sweet Lenore hath gone before, with hope that flew beside, leaving thee wild for the dear child that should have been thy bride. For her, the fair and debonair, that now so lowly lies. The life upon her yellow hair, but not within her eyes. The life still there upon her hair, the death upon her eyes. Avaunt, tonight my heart is light. No dirge will I upraise, but waft the angel on her flight with a paean of old days. Let no bell toll, lest her sweet soul amid its hallowed mirth should catch the note as it doth float up from the damned earth. To friends above, from fiends below, the indignant ghost is riven, from hell unto a high estate far up within the heaven, from grief and groan to a golden throne beside the King of Heaven. 1833. To one in paradise. Thou wast that all to me, love, for which my soul did pine. A green isle in the sea, love, a fountain and a shrine, all wreathed with fairy fruits and flowers, and all the flowers were mine. Ah, dream too bright to last! Ah, starry hope that didst arise but to be overcast! A voice from out the future cries, on, on! But o'er the past, dim gulf, my spirit hovering lies, mute, motionless, aghast. For alas, alas, with me, the light of life is o'er. No more, no more, no more. Such language holds the solemn sea to the sands upon the shore. Shall bloom the thunder-blasted tree, or the stricken eagle soar. And all my days are trances, and all my nightly dreams are where thy dark eye glances, and where thy footstep gleams, in what ethereal dances, by what eternal streams. Alas, for that accursed time they bore thee o'er the billow, from love to titled age and crime, and an unholy pillow, from me and from our misty clime, where weeps the silver willow. 1835. The Coliseum. Type of the antique Rome, rich reliquary of lofty contemplation left to time, by buried centuries of pomp and power, at length, after so many days of weary pilgrimage and burning thirst for the springs of lore that in thee lie, I kneel, an altered and an humble man, amid thy shadows, and so drink within my very soul thy grandeur, gloom, and glory. Vastness and age, in memories of eld, silence and desolation and dim night, I feel ye now, I feel ye in your strength, those spells more sure than e'er Judean king taught in the gardens of Gethsemane. O charms more potent than the rapt Chaldee ever drew down from out the quiet stars. Here, where a hero fell, a column falls. Here, where the mimic eagle glared in gold, a midnight vigil holds the swarthy bat. Here, where the dames of Rome their gilded hair wave to the wind, now wave the reed and thistle. Here, where on golden throne the monarch lolled, glides spectre-like unto his marble home. Lit by the wan light of the horned moon, the swift and silent lizard of the stones. But stay! These walls, these ivy-clad arcades, these mouldering plinths, these sad and blackened shafts, these vague entablatures, this crumbling frieze, these shattered cornices, this wreck, this ruin, these stones, alas, these grey stones, are they all of the famed and the colossal left by the corrosive hours to fate and me? Not all. The echoes answer me, not all. Prophetic sounds and loud arise forever from us and from all ruin unto the wise, as melody from Memnon to the sun. We rule the hearts of mightiest men. We rule with the despotic sway all giant minds. We are not impotent, we pallid stones. Not all our power is gone, not all our fame, not all the magic of our high renown, not all the wonder that encircles us, not all the mysteries that in us lie, not all the memories that hang upon and cling around about us as a garment, clothing us in a robe of more than glory. 1838. The Haunted Palace. In the greenest of our valleys, by good angels tenanted, once a fair and stately palace, radiant palace, reared its head. In the monarch thought's dominion, it stood there, never seraph spread opinion, over fabric half so fair. Banners yellow, glorious, golden, on its roof did float and flow. All this, was in the olden time long ago. And every gentle air that dallied in that sweet day, along the ramparts, plumed and pallid, a winged odor went away. Wanderers in that happy valley through two luminous windows saw spirits moving musically to a lute's well-tuned law, bound about a throne where sitting Porphyrogene, in state his glory well befitting, the ruler of the realm was seen. And all with pearl and ruby glowing was the fair palace door, through which came flowing, and sparkling evermore, a troop of echoes whose sweet duty was but to sing, in voices of surpassing beauty, the wit and wisdom of their king. But evil things in robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. Ah, let us mourn, for never morrow shall dawn upon him desolate. And round about his home the glory that blushed and bloomed is but a dim remembered story of the old time entombed. And travellers now within that valley through the red-litten windows see vast forms that move fantastically to a discordant melody, while, like a ghastly rapid river through the pale door, a hideous throng rush out forever, and laugh, but smile no more. The Conqueror Worm. Lo, 'tis a gala night within the lonesome latter years. An angel throng, bewinged, bedight, in veils and drowned in tears, sit in a theatre to see a play of hopes and fears, while the orchestra breathes fitfully the music of the spheres. Mimes, in the form of God on high, mutter and mumble low, and hither and thither fly, mere puppets they who come and go, at bidding of vast formless things that shift the scenery to and fro, flapping from out their condor wings, invisible woe. That motley drama, oh, be sure it shall not be forgot, with its phantom chased for evermore by a crowd that sees it not, through a circle that ever returneth in to the selfsame spot, and much of madness and more of sin and horror the soul of the plot. But see, amid the mimic rout a crawling shape intrude, a blood-red thing that writhes from out the scenic solitude. It writhes with mortal pangs, the mimes become its food, and the angels sob at vermin fangs, in human gore imbued. Out are the lights, out all, and over each quivering form the curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of a storm. And the angels, all pallid and wan, uprising unveiling affirm that the play is the tragedy man, and its hero, the Conqueror Worm. 1838. Silence. There are some qualities, some incorporate things that have a double life, which thus is made a type of that twin entity which springs from matter and light, evinced in solid and shade. There is a twofold silence, sea and shore, body and soul. One dwells in lonely places, newly with grass o'ergrown. Some solemn graces, some human memories and tearful lore render him terrorless. His name's no more. He is the corporate silence. Dread him not. No power hath he of evil in himself, but should some urgent fate, untimely lot, bring thee to meet his shadow, nameless elf that haunteth the lone regions where hath trod no foot of man, commend thyself to God. 1840. Dreamland. By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright, I have reached these lands but newly, from an ultimate dim Thule, from a wild weird clime that lieth sublime, out of space, out of time. Bottomless vales and boundless floods and chasms and caves and titan woods, with forms that no man can discover, for the dews that drip all over, mountains toppling evermore into seas without a shore, seas that restlessly aspire, surging unto skies of fire, lakes that endlessly outspread their lone waters, lone and dead, their still waters, still and chilly, with the snows of the lolling lily. By the lakes that thus outspread their lone waters, lone and dead, their sad waters, sad and chilly, with the snows of the lolling lily. By the mountains near the river, murmuring lowly, murmuring ever, by the grey woods, by the swamp, where the toad and the newt encamp, by the dismal tarns and pools, where dwell the ghouls, by each spot the most unholy, in each nook most melancholy. There the traveller meets aghast, sheeted memories of the past, shrouded forms that start and sigh, as they pass the wanderer by, white-robed forms of friends long given, in agony, to the earth and heaven. For the heart whose woes are legion, 'tis a peaceful, soothing region. For the spirit that walks in shadow, 'tis an Eldorado. But the traveller, travelling through it, dare not openly view it. Never its mysteries are exposed to the weak human eye unclosed. So wills its king, who hath forbid the uplifting of the fringed lid, and thus the sad soul that here passes beholds it but through darkened glasses. By a route obscure and lonely, haunted by ill angels only, where an eidolon named Night on a black throne reigns upright, I have wandered home but newly from this ultimate dim Thule. 1844. To Zante. Fair isle, that from the fairest of all flowers, thy gentlest of all gentle names, dost take, how many memories of what radiant hours, at sight of thee and thine at once awake! How many scenes of what departed bliss! How many thoughts of what entombed hopes! How many visions of a maiden that is no more! No more upon thy verdant slopes, no more, alas, that magical sad sound, transforming all, thy charms shall please no more, thy memory no more, accursed ground, henceforward I hold thy flower enamelled shore, O hyacinthine isle, O purple Zante, Isola d'oro, fiore di Levante. 1847. Hymn. At morn, at noon, at twilight dim, Maria, thou hast heard my hymn. In joy and woe, in good and ill, Mother of God, be with me still. When the hours flew brightly by, and not a cloud obscured the sky, my soul, lest it should truant be, thy grace did guide to thine and thee. Now, when storms of fate o'ercast darkly my present and my past, let my future radiant shine with sweet hopes of thee and thine. Sonnet to Science. Science, true daughter of old time thou art, who alterest all things with thy peering eyes. Why preyest thou thus upon the poet's heart, vulture, whose wings are dull realities? How should he love thee, or how deem thee wise, who wouldst not leave him in his wandering to seek for treasure in the jewelled skies? Albeit he soared with an undaunted wing, hast thou not dragged Diana from her car, and driven the Hamadryad from the wood to seek a shelter in some happier star? Hast thou not torn the Naiad from her flood, the elfin from the green grass, and from me the summer dream beneath the tamarind tree?